So hello and good morning. Welcome everybody. My name is Kathleen Lane. I am the Well at Work Program Director for the EdCan Network. And I'm delighted to have you all here today for a continuation of our Stories of Success webinar series. Today, we'll be looking at Wellness as a Community by Klaas Hoekstra. And as we get started, I want to acknowledge that we're all joining from different places in this land that we call Canada, land traditional territories of the First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit people. Today, I'm in Jasper on the traditional territory, the meeting grounds, the gathering place, a traditional traveling route, and home for the Daneza, the Asenewuch Winwak, Asenewakcha Niau, the Nihiawak, the Anishinaabe, the Secwepemc, the Stoney Nakoda, the Mountain Métis, and the Métis. Jasper is Treaty 6 and 8 territory, as well as home of the Jasper House Métis District. Today's session, we will be recording, so please feel free to engage in the chat. We'll turn off the recording for the end. And I'd like to introduce Klaas Hoekstra, our wonderful host today. He is the principal at Tabor Christian School in Horizon School District in Southern Alberta. And I first met Klaas through some work that we've been doing with his school district, as well as a neighboring school district, co-designing professional learning for some principals. We've called it the generative listening experience. So Klaas, as we get started, you've shared a lot of ideas with me in our conversations. So what was the inspiration for building community in your schools? And you can start with a little bit of introduction to who you are as well.
Thank you, Kathleen, and welcome to everybody. I am excited to share about a topic that I absolutely love. I breathe. I am so inspired by. So thank you for the opportunity to present. So my name is Klaas. I'm married to my wife, Tanya. We've got 4 great kids. And we moved from Ontario to Alberta about 12 years ago. It was part of a family adventure. And it has been an adventure. I love the idea of building community, of taking the gifts that we have, the things we're good at, and saying we can build up our surroundings by being positive, encouraging people. It's not easy, it's hard work, but I love it. And so when I moved into this town of Tabor, wonderful place known for its sweet corn, big agriculture industry as well. When I moved here, I noticed right away at the school that I'm at, there was an issue. We lacked a positive culture, and it wasn't the fault of one individual person or leadership or anything like that. It's just there was a lack of trust, a lack of ability to work together. And I had my kids here, and I always preach to my kids, you know, you have a job to make other people make their lives better. Like, you got to work hard to serve others. And they were at this school. So I thought, what better way to help change the culture here so it affects all kids, especially my kids. Maybe that's a little bit of a selfish thing, but it was affecting, the kids, parents, community. How do we do that in a positive way? When I first started in education 20 years ago, my first mentor, he said, whenever you're approached with a problem, instead of saying why, go with why not. And I love that. You know, why not try to make something better? Why not go for system change? For those of us who are in education, we understand that changing the system is difficult, is challenging, is something that most of us don't even want to attempt because we know the roadblocks that are set in front of us. And I love positive disruption. I love looking at systems that need to change and say, why not? Let's do it. Let's go for it. So oh, go ahead.
Okay, no, keep going.
That would be my inspiration for building community. I love helping kids learn and explore and grow into who they are going to be as adults. And if I can do anything to make that a positive experience for any kid that comes across my path, I will do that.
Amazing. So on the why not, one of the things you talked to me about in some of our earlier conversations was the idea of creating a culture code within your school. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that fit into this big picture of creating positive cultures in Tabor Christian?
Yes, great. Thank you for the question. I started at this school as a vice principal, recognizing that there was some mistrust among staff, parents, kids. And I thought I have an opportunity to affect some change in a positive way. It's not my job. I love the quote. It's not my job to solve the world. It's my job to do my part. And so strategically and slowly, I created relationships with the teachers, with the students. I was doing my best to be an example of what it meant to be a positive person within a community, within a staff. And so what we did when I took over as principal 2 years later, we started real simple. We put some big pieces of paper in the staff room and we posted a few questions. And it was a very eye-opening experience and an experience that was very vulnerable for us as a community and for me as a leader. Some of the questions included, when people enter our building, how do we want them to feel? When you leave work, what do you want to be able to say to yourself at the end of the day that says you had a good day or were able to affect change in a positive way? What behaviors do we want to see in each other as staff members? And that was a tricky one because there was some mistrust and some teachers would come and say, well, this teacher shows up late or this teacher does this. And then we were able to adapt that towards, okay, so how do we make each other look good? And I love that one because I don't know about other industries, but I know in education, a parent will come to a teacher and say, last year's teacher was horrible and did this and so on and so on. And as a staff, we are called to make each other look good. It doesn't mean we dismiss any situations where we can improve, but it does mean that as a community, we need to support each other. As a teaching community, as a parent community, as student community, we need to support each other. And the greatest question that we asked was that first one. When people enter our building, when parents, community members, when we're hosting tournaments for sports, arts programs, whatever it is, when they enter our building, how do we want them to feel? We want that to be a positive experience. So we posted those in the staff room. For about 6 months, we got feedback. As a staff, we slowly worked through what those could mean for us as a staff, and we were able to finalize 10 general statements that allowed us as a staff to say, yep, we can tie ourselves to these because it represents who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah. So we're going to take a moment if you could share those with us in a second. But as I love this idea of visualizing what you want your community to look like. So before you share kind of the 10 statements that form the culture code, can you just tell us some of the words and the emotions that came up on those charts you had posted in your staff room?
Yep. So we had some wonderful veteran teachers who, I want to say this with full respect, but you know what? They needed some encouragement. They needed the positive atmosphere within their lives. And some of the responses were, I don't care what parents think. My job is to teach kids. And kids have to work. That's their job. And I respect that second one. Yeah, kids do have to work, but relationship is key. And so strategically from day one, when I started to build relationships with those teachers, with all teachers, with students, with parents as well, it was an opportunity for me to dive deeper into some of those ancient views of education where we're up here as teachers, parents, this is your role. Give us your kids, we'll solve it. And if we don't solve it, it's not our fault. So there were some really strong emotions towards the idea that it was also kind of fluffy, like it's not real. It's more emotional based. It's more about how people feel. Well, that's not the real world. Yes and no. Everyone has emotions. And yeah, maybe for parents, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but when those little kids are entering your classroom, their emotions matter. The relationship you have with those kids is what's going to carry you through the difficult times and through the whole school year and beyond that. So relationships was key.
Yeah. And I imagine relationships might have been part of the process of getting everybody onto the same page.
Yes, yes, definitely. So we became strategic. One of the rules, or not rules, one of the guidelines I shared with staff was within the first week of school, I want you to connect with each parent face to face. And one of the troubles was, well, some of our parents don't come into the school. And
Mm.
I said, don't worry, I can solve that one. I'll get them in the building. You create the relationship. You start that initial conversation that includes the encouragement for their children. I'm a parent of 4 kids, and I'm not sure there's anything more important in my life aside than my faith and my relationship with my wife, but my children hold such a dear, important role in who I am as a person. And I said
Mhm.
that to my teachers as well. When you are talking about someone's children, you have to understand they have raised these kids from birth. They have gone through all the challenges of sickness and health and the struggles of learning to walk or talk or whatever it is. If we can start that initial relationship with parents based on, I'm so happy your kid's in my class, and we have to mean it. But if we can start there,
Mhm.
we can make good progress, and we have made good progress.
Awesome. So now I'm sure everyone's curious, what are the 10 pieces that landed in your culture code?
Okay, great. So Alberta teachers are held by a code of conduct, and it's a wonderful code of conduct. Uh, to summarize, it would be, you have to make sure you're working hard, being kind to those around you, not speaking poorly about your coworkers. And that code of conduct is really important to have as Alberta teachers. It gives us some guidance. And so, as an administrator, when there is conflict or trouble, I can go to the code of conduct, and it's a valuable document. But what about the culture within our own school, within our own community? Each school has its own feel and taste, and
Absolutely.
yeah, they have their own context. And so what is it about our context? And this is what we came up with. Now we are a faith-based school, we're a Christian school, so some of these are connected to our faith. The majority of them would work in any setting, but the first one is we use and share our gifts and talents willingly. This is a great one because when it comes to who's going to coach the grade 7 volleyball team, and you sit there at the staff meeting and you hear those crickets, we say, hey, you know what, we've got gifts and talents and we need to use them willingly. And I am a big fan of Jean Vanier, the Canadian philosopher and theologian. uh, he talks about the gift of availability. And what I love about this is my character as an individual. I love connecting with people. I'd much
Mhm.
rather have a conversation than send an email. And so I was able to model that gift of availability by being with teachers, being in the classroom, being after school, connecting, talking. I'll continue on the list. The next one, maybe one of my favorites, we show joy in our work and we make it fun.
Nice.
We know that well, you look at the stats for teachers. After 5 years, about a third of teachers are leaving.
Mhm.
They're leaving the profession. Uh, Almost 80% of Canadian educators feel, the stress level has increased over the past year or past couple of years. We got to make it fun for each other. We're going to share joy with our kids, with our parents, and with each other.
Yeah.
The next one is we make each other look good. The next is we appreciate the service of others. So those are, words of affirmation. Thanks for the work
Mhm.
you do. Thank you for coming in. Those positive statements are vital in building and sustaining relationships. The next one is that we begin our day with prayer and apply God's word to our daily lives. The next is we collaborate and work together. We keep things positive. That's one of my favorite as well. It is, you know what? Teachers will come and they'll gripe about something, they're upset,
Mhm.
and that's okay. People need the opportunity to vent and to share their frustrations. I don't follow those conversations up with, hey, remember, we got to keep things positive, because that's not the right timing. But generally speaking, when you feel that the tone is shifting, we just point to that one. Hey, we've got to keep positive.
Mhm.
There are many little eyes and ears watching us in our school building. And if we can keep that positive approach, we pray that it extends to them as well. I got three left. We are welcoming. So when people come in our building, it is really important that kids and adults welcome them. That's one of the big rules we have, saying good morning, good afternoon. When there
Lovely.
are adults or other people who aren't from our community in our building, we make sure that they are welcomed many times. And the next one is we stay informed and connected, which is a great one for when emails go through and it gets busy, making
Mhm.
sure that staff are staying connected. And then the last one is this is my school and I take pride in it.
Amazing. And I'm sure since you've developed this culture code in collaboration with the staff team, you've started to see some benefits. Given the culture you had or inherited when you first got to Tabor Christian School, what are some of the changes you've seen since then?
That's a great question. I would say, you know, the absence of a positive culture is easy to recognize.
Hmm.
If you go into schools or communities where, or businesses, any industry where it's not a positive culture, it's pretty easy to recognize. When there is a positive culture, it's easy to take it for granted. And so
Mm.
it's it's been continual work. We're on year 6, year 7 of our culture code, and we are actually starting a review of it this year. We're going to do it all
Good.
again to make sure that we're on the right path. And so it's been a lot of hard work maintaining the focus on that culture
Hmm.
code as a staff. However, the positive benefits, we have them posted in our staff room. When there is conflict uh, with teachers, with students, with staff, we come back to our culture code. And it's almost like it's a buffer that allows us to say, oh yeah, we've agreed to this. Let's take a different approach to the issue that
Hmm.
we have, the problem that we have. And the the greatest gift that I receive every year, quite often throughout the year, we will have people come into our building and say to us, there's something different about this place. It feels different. And that to me is the greatest payment that we can receive out of the hard work that we're doing, where individuals who aren't in our community recognize that good things are happening. That means we're on the right path.
Wonderful. And the other thing, kind of going beyond the culture code that we spoke about previously, was this creating a community among school admins. So it's kind of sharing some of the community building you've done within your school more broadly with principals and vice principals. Is that in your school district or beyond?
Yeah, so we're part of, well, this has been an incredible journey. It has completely changed my perspective uh, about education and my positive approach to my job. 2 years ago, we were approached as a school division to join EdCan in co-designing a professional learning cohort to build principals' capacity to shape safe and caring schools. And we had 6 principals join this, 3 from our school division and 3 from another school division. And we journeyed along with Felicia. She led us through this conversation about generative dialogue. And it was challenging, difficult, and so rewarding. So we are currently in the 2nd year, and we've been working with some other principals through this generative dialogue. We've got 6 sessions. She's included some speakers that don't necessarily have that education background, but we've worked through the idea of building a common agenda, what it looks like for evaluation, uh, what happens when there's conflict? How do we deal with that? But the most important part of it is the focus is about that leadership piece. As principals, it can sometimes be a lonely, difficult job. And maybe you've heard the statement, when the principal coughs, the school gets a cold. And I think there's some truth to that. If the principal is not doing well, how can they support others to do well?
Mhm.
And I think as a principal, one of my number one jobs is to support my staff, to be in the trenches with them when they're struggling, to celebrate the joys that they're having. And so the generative listening experience that we're doing right now has really given me that ability to grow as a principal in my understanding of my own wellness and how my wellness directly affects those around me.
Amazing. Um, any last thoughts before we open it up to questions from our audience?
No, I could go on and on. I am so passionate about building positive culture. One thing I'd like to say, and again, I don't know if there's a correlation, but when I started as principal 10 years ago, we had 157 students. And this year we are at 440 students.
Wow.
And I don't want to say that it's prescriptive, do this, you'll get that. But there is no doubt in my mind that our culture code has led to that increase in enrollment.
Amazing. Thank you, Klaas.